What you do in 1 month is more than what one person will do in their lifetime. How do you make it not a transaction?
1,400 employees, all started on a used gravel lot, selling used cars in Lafayette, Indiana.
We've never seen that phone ring before. It's your grandpa. And I was like, what? Are you going to come sell cars for me this summer? I was like, I will. I'll do it.
Where was the moment that you knew that like taking over the family business was going to be your destiny? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Before we get into the show, Aberdeen is Indiana's first agri-hood and wellness lifestyle community, and it's unlike anything else in the Hoosier State. This is an upscale custom home neighborhood located in Center Grove. But it's more than that. It's a new kind of community, one that's been carefully crafted to cultivate connection to people, to nature, and to a more active and intentional lifestyle. Picture rolling terrain, timeless design, trails, open spaces. It's elegant, peaceful, and designed for families, business owners, and empty nesters who are done with the noise and ready to live with purpose. Aberdeen isn't just a place to call home, it's a community to join. Go to aberdeenliving.com to schedule a visit. Now let's get into the episode. Today I'm joined by Ryan Rohrman, the CEO of Rohrman Automotive Group, one of the largest family-owned dealership groups in the U.S. that's based right here in Indiana. Now, Ryan is blending tradition with innovation, transforming this legacy business through digital marketing, culture building, and a fresh approach to leadership as a third-generation family-owned business. Today, we're going to be talking about this business that started in 1963 and is just celebrating, as rewarded by the governor today, the day of our filming, for their 50th year in business, talking about, leading through culture and also leaning into social media. And this is going to be a really fun episode. Ryan, welcome to Get In.
Yeah. Hey, Nate, thank you for having me. Looking forward to conversations. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna start and set the scene. We got to get the background.
Cool.
Your grandpa, what's your grandpa's name?
Bob Rohrman.
Of course, you've heard the commercials, right? You've heard the commercials. Bob started this business back in 1963. Set the scene and kind of catch us up to, not the whole thing, but 50 years. How did this business start?
So my grandfather, smart guy, hard worker, barely got through high school. And so he went to high school in Lafayette, Indiana, Jeff High School. It's still there.
Go Bronco.
That's right. Yeah, Broncos. Yeah.
With an H, though.
That's right.
Bronchos.
Yes. The draft was going on at that time. So he decided to go into the Army. And so I don't know the story of how he got into this, but he ended up being a light tank commander out in Washington State. And literally the day before the Korean War, the treaty was signed, he was going to go out the very next day. So that happens, right? He's been out there for 3 or 4 years, and then he's like, what am I going to do? So he was one of 11 kids, and he was towards the young side. So he moved back to Lafayette, Indiana, where his sister was living, and a lot of her children were similar ages to him at this time. Oh, yeah. So he started living with them, and he was talking to his brother-in-law, and he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. And his brother-in-law was selling cars. And he goes, my grandfather looks at him and says, man, you look good. You have a suit and tie on. Like, maybe I want to do that. So he goes, Bob, I sell used cars. You shouldn't start there. Let me take you down to the Ford store. So at the time, Pittman Ford was downtown Lafayette, Indiana. And now there's a Holiday Inn down there. So actually, if you go in that hotel, there's pictures of Pittman Ford there. I don't think there's any pictures of him, but it's pretty cool. So this was like late 1950s into the early 60s. He just crushed it. Did well, just rose to the top really, really fast, to the point of, in 1963, he decided it's time to do my own thing. And so in 63, he went out and he bought a gravel lot right on Creasy and Sagamore Parkway, which is still, we have a lot of our dealerships are still there on that original property. And it was a gravel lot. We have pictures of that. It's pretty cool. And it was Bob Rohrman Automobiles, and he sold used cars. And so he did that very successfully for many years. And then in 1968, Toyota came from Japan and It's like, we want to start selling new Toyotas in North America. So they were here a little before 68, but it was a slow bleed from both coasts.
Just in general, that timeline, 1968, that's not that far from the 40s, you know, and like Japanese cars. And
yes.
Yeah, I just can't imagine. So does he become a Toyota?
Well, so as he would tell the story, you know, the Toyota folks, they didn't go to startups. They went to the big three, the Chevy dealers, the Dodge dealers, the Ford dealers, and they're like, hey, do you want this? Because whenever you get an open point, so if a manufacturer wants you to be a dealer where there's no dealer at, there's no cost to that. You just have to buy the land and build.
Oh, they'll just give you cars?
They'll give you the ticket, as we call it. So the ticket gives us the right to sell that product on that parcel.
I got you. Okay.
So they're literally giving it to, and the big three at the time in Lafayette says, we don't want that. And a lot of it was based on, I think, what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
So like not too far after World War II. And so there was a lot of still this pent up, I don't want to say hatred, but like just a dislike, maybe is a better word.
Yeah.
Towards Japan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, today you fast forward to 2023, and I think, 2025.
Yeah.
And I feel like Honda, Toyota, like those are some of the most like revered cars in the state, or in all of the United States. Like, oh, you want a reliable, dependable, like never have to, as long as you like take care of it. It's like, go buy a Toyota.
Well, the interesting thing about any new startup manufacturer, and this is probably true outside of automotive too, there's a high risk of taking a brand that you don't know anything about. I want to come back to that, but if you fast forward, like you think of Isuzu, Suzuki, they're very successful in Japan. They tried it in the United States, and they're not here anymore, right?
Yeah.
So there's a risk to whenever a new manufacturer comes, you know, whether they're based out of North America or they're based out of a different country.
It is so interesting. And even like some of the Toyota cars don't make it over here.
Yeah.
Like they have some really cool cars that are like in Australia and like that area. And I'm like, dude, those are BA. Like we need some of those.
They're cool.
But they don't make it over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1968.
Yep.
Toyota is expanding into Lafayette.
Yes.
And ends up getting connected with Bob.
So my grandfather goes, hey, I'll take it. He knew they were in town, talking to these dealers, and they're like, you're a used car dealer. You don't have the land or the building. And this is the weird part of the story, because in the 60s, like the towns that we live in today, I mean, we know they didn't look like that, right? So he literally said, I'll just buy the parcel next to me. It was a cornfield, you know? And so they're like, all right. So he bought the parcel next to his used car lot, put a Toyota showroom in, and they gave him the ticket. So he starts selling Toyotas, and you know, he got awarded the ticket in 68. So that's when the business opened. And so he was probably selling them in a small showroom within 6 to 8 months, you know, selling new Toyotas out of Lafayette, Indiana. Well, fast forward a couple years, the first oil embargo hits. I'm sorry, he got Honda in Lafayette right next to it. Similar story.
Oh, so wait, he gets Toyota and then he gets Honda?
Right next to it.
Oh, yeah.
Same story, because Honda was right behind Toyota. So we got the Honda store around 71 or 72.
Okay.
First oil embargo hits. So all the big boats that the domestics were selling, you know, gas was extremely expensive. So he took off because he was selling these little Japanese cars that were very fuel efficient. And because even though you had the ticket, it didn't mean they were selling like hotcakes like they are today, right? So it was just perfect timing, very fortunate, and exploded.
Yeah, I mean, you just think of like this is late 60s, early 70s. Like these cars are huge.
Yes.
Like these massive,
they're big,
old school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, of course, like we weren't around at this time, but my grandfather would say he'd come into the dealership, and then some mornings, some of the Toyotas or Hondas, they would literally be flipped over on the roofs. That's how small they were. Like if you could go up to them, and people would not like these cars because they're from Japan, and they'd literally flip them over.
Oh,
and they'd have to flip them back over.
They'd buff out the top.
Buff the top out.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so and I guess that was a thing. You know.
Yeah, and
so.
there wasn't like, you know, Simply Safe back in the day to like check out the Ring cameras. On
No way.
Who's keeps like you've heard of cow tipping, but then there's Toyota tipping. Back in the
tipping.
Day. Yeah,
That's right.
Okay, so things progress.
Yep.
He's right place, right time, buying these new lots where you know you have the Toyota,
Yep.
you have the Honda,
Right.
oil embargo hits,
Yep.
things take off. And how quickly did he stick around? Did he still have the used car lot as well?
Yeah.
So running those three that are kind of like,
Yes.
that's a nice commute between offices there.
Oh, they were
Like,
right next to each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So really from like, I would say like the early 70s, he just exploded. So the story from the 70s to probably the early 80s, it was his expansion in Indiana.
Yeah.
So he got into Indianapolis, and then in 83, he entered into the Illinois market as well.
Did his brother-in-law end up coming and joining the business?
No, he never
No,
did.
still stuck on his own.
He never
Talk about
did.
a great conversation. Like, hey, I know you see me selling used
Yes.
cars. You should go do your own thing.
Yeah.
And, like, he could have just been like an all-star used car salesman with
He
his
did his own
brother-in-law.
thing.
Wow.
His brother-in-law, and it's not that he was a real old guy at the time either, but he was very content in what he was doing.
There you go. Well, I mean, that's wild. So, because today you guys have what, 1,400 employees
We do,
across all.
yeah.
How many locations?
22 locations.
22 locations, 1,400 employees, all started on a used gravel lot. Selling used cars in Lafayette,
right.
Indiana. That's amazing. Because today you talked about the expansion into Illinois, and you also have Wisconsin, I believe.
It's almost Illinois still. It's Kenosha, Wisconsin. So it's just across the border. But yes, one store there.
That's awesome. Really just takes off through, you said, into the 80s. Was your dad involved? What was the second generation between you and your grandpa?
My grandfather has 5 kids. So my dad is his oldest. So his sons all worked in the business at different levels, different roles, different times.
What did everyone have like a specific starting job? Like, hey, you got to start like selling cars, or you got to start washing cars? Like, where do people get their first gig?
So my uncles are hilarious. My dad too. They have a great sense of humor, and a lot of their jokes, they're inside jokes. Working for their dad. My dad's name is Robert. He's a junior. He goes by JR today, but he was Robert. And then the next brother down was Randy. So they had R&R. Like cleanup. So their first job was cleaning cars. And, they talk about doing it every now and then on the gravel lots. And part of their job was maintaining the gravel, because the weeds would pop up or they'd want to make sure that it wasn't bumpy or anything like that. So that was their first job, was just really like maintaining the lot and then washing the cars, on a daily basis. And, they all started at that level and then worked their way up. And so my dad was really prevalent in Lafayette. So at one time he oversaw the operations in Lafayette, Indiana. My other uncle Randy was real prevalent in Chicago. He did he was a director of operations up in that market. And then my other uncle Rick was in Indianapolis doing a similar job. So they all love cars, so they all had other side hobbies that they did. In 91, my dad left my grandfather and started his own business. And so he had J.R. Rohrman Automobiles. That was all based out of Lafayette, Indiana, and it was used car lots. So he got into the buy here, pay here business as well. And that's kind of what I grew up doing.
Different than Bob Rohrman Automotive. This was buy here, pay here, like used car lots in Lafayette. Wow.
Yes.
So it's like, 5 or let's say 10 years after they buy from grandfather, then it's like, hey, we might like get your trade in here. Come
Absolutely.
on. There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And he did that very successfully. My dad did for probably about 12 years. And then in the early 2000s, he decided it's time for a change for our family. So he sold everything and we moved to northern Wisconsin. So I ended up going to So I was born and raised in Lafayette, Indiana. And then my high school years, I was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Wow.
So, which is pretty far north.
Why northern Wisconsin?
Long story. The shortened version of it is the Rohrman surname were German. And so when the first Rohrmans came over from Germany, for whatever reason, they landed in Spooner, Wisconsin, it's a population of 1,100 people in the summer. And it's a lumberjacking town to this day. It's still a very small, neat town. But Bob Rohrman, my grandfather's dad, he would be considered a gypsy in today's, just the way he traveled all over the place.
Yeah.
Looking for jobs. So my grandfather, one of 11 kids, he grew up all over the Midwest. Missouri, Minnesota, Wisconsin. He was born in Lafayette, Indiana, just because his dad was driving through, with
What a wild
all their
life.
11 kids. Yeah, so he was really raised all over the place, but they ended up in Spooner, Wisconsin. They started there and ended up there. And so during the Great Depression, they were able to purchase some land around this little lake, so a 30-acre lake. It's called Little Casey. And most of that has stayed inside of the Rohrman family, really, for the last 60 years.
So then you guys go up there.
Yeah.
Your dad says it's time for a change.
Right.
You move up to Wisconsin, go through high school.
Yep.
You end up coming back to Indiana, though,
Yes.
and you go to Bethel.
Yes. So I never came back to Indiana until 2020. So I was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I went Bethel University is in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, not Bethel in South Bend.
That's another one. That's Bethel College.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah.
So this is Bethel University in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Not in, okay, never mind. When I said go Pilots earlier, that's so silly.
Yeah, I was like, we're the Royals.
Yeah,
But,
no, Bethel. I was
Yes.
thinking, I went to Bethel basketball camp in South Bend.
Okay, it makes more sense
All right,
now.
different Bethels.
Yeah.
All right, now we're on.
Yes.
So you end up going to college in Minnesota.
I did.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. Interesting story behind that, too. So I love cars. Grew up loving cars. Like, even when I was a kid, I loved the DuPont registry. I loved Car and Driver. So I would study these cars. I knew a lot about cars. Worked on my dad's car lots as a child. When I got into high school, Northern Wisconsin shop classes are epic. What they offer is great. So I've taken welding 1, 2, and 3. I've taken metals 1, 2, and 3. And I really liked working with my hands. So I was good at that. So I got a job at a body shop, and I was the owner had the municipality contract. So up in northern Wisconsin, all the police cars have the brush guards in the front of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's because they're hitting deer a lot or trees. And so these cars would come in crushed. And they just gave me the torch. And they're like, you got to get it out. So I loved that job. It was great.
How old were you?
I was probably 17.
That's a pretty cool job for a 17.
I loved working. So like I loved working, so I always had a job. Ever since I was 14 years old, I worked at McDonald's for like 2 years.
Was that your first job?
It's my first real job. I worked at my dad's lot prior to that, but like really where I got
that was
a
my
paycheck.
first. That was my first real job. Was at McDonald's.
Was it?
Dude, you learn a lot about people.
I love that job to be.
What were you like working the register, or
No.
were you like back in there like making burgers?
I was making burgers and putting them together.
Well,
and
it's like a fun little assembly line. Like you kind of get vibing.
it was fun, man. I don't know, but the only time I did not like it's when they made me work in like holidays, and my whole family went and did something, and they're like, "No, I mean, if you didn't tell them, that you weren't going to be."
And when you're like the low man on the totem pole, they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, here's Christmas
Yes.
for you. Like, enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
24/7, 365. Everyone,
right.
would you like fries with that?
Oh.
Come on. That's wild. Okay,
Yeah.
so you end up then going, so you were working kind of around cars.
Yep.
You go to Bethel in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And then when do you decide, like, hey, I might want to get back involved with the family business?
In between that, I ended up getting a job at a Spur gas station, and I was changing oil. So I was doing light mechanical work on cars for about 18 months as well. So, like I did a lot of, and in between to help my dad out, I'd sell cars too. So my dad opened another used car lot up in northern Wisconsin, and I would help him do that. So I sold a handful of used cars in that market as well. So all that to be said, by this time I was going off to college. I had worked in a body shop. I had turned wrenches for almost 2 years. I've sold cars a little bit, and I was kind of done with the business, to be frank. So I was a biochem major. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I just knew I liked science. So I was a biochem major, and I was a decent soccer player. So Bethel gave me an academic scholarship to play soccer because it's D3, so you can't. Yeah.
Come on.
So I went there, and on a side note, at the time, they had one of the best biochem programs in the country for private schools. It was a good fit for me. So I went there, and probably like 2 to 3 months into my freshman year, my grandfather just, like, at this time, we had a great relationship. So like I was his oldest grandson, and he really started to take an interest in me probably around like my 8th grade year. I was really blessed with athletic abilities. So like I love playing basketball. He'd come and watch me play on, in Indiana, the AAU stuff, high school, soccer, all that kind of jazz. And he was into that. So he'd support me in that. And then, so 2 or 3 months into my freshman year, he started blowing my phone up. My grandfather, he, if you watch some of his commercials, the personality that you see there, that was not him acting. Like that's awesome. That's how he was. So, hey grandpa, hey babe, he called everyone nicknames. If he ever called me by my real name, I was in trouble.
Oh.
So, I was babe or chief or something like that. He's calling me. He's like, hey, when are you going to come sell cars for me? I said, Grandpa, I'm biochem major. I don't think I'm going to do that. Oh, you don't want to do that. That's, what are you going to do with that? Be a doctor or something? And I was like, yeah, maybe. And he's like, you don't want to be a doctor. You want to come sell cars. And I was like, I don't know. I think I want to do this. I really like it. And so legitimately, this went on for like weeks. He'd call me around the same, always late at night. And I stopped picking my phone up because he was so relentless. I was like, I had no problem telling him no. I just didn't want to have the same conversation over and over again. So at the time in the dorm room, we still had the phones with the cord on it. Okay.
So this wasn't like your cell phone. This is like he's calling your.
Well, we never used it, but we had a phone with a cord on the wall. That thing starts ringing for the first time in like 3 months. Like I had 2 other roommates. We all looked at it like, we've never seen that phone ring before. So my buddy picks it up. He goes, hello? And he looks at me and goes, it's your grandpa. And I was like, what? So I picked the phone and I was like, Grandpa? He goes, hey, babe, how'd you get this number? He goes, it took me a few phone calls to get it. Hey, are you going to come sell cars for me this summer? I was like, you know what? I will. I'll do it.
He did not give up.
He didn't give up, man.
No way. I do wonder. He's like, did he have to call like the dean's office or whatever and like go through the registry and it's like, hey, I just need to get to room 246.
He was so persistent. I mean, and he was good at it. He didn't do it in a way where you're like, this guy is, he's a jack. I mean, they're like, he probably had him laughing, like, oh yeah, let me get that number for you.
Classic.
So it was the summer of 2005. I went and I started selling cars. So I lived with him. He lived in Downers Grove at the time in Illinois. It's a suburb. And
so he was not in Lafayette.
He had a house in Lafayette, but he kind of lived in both places, but he was more living at this stage of his life. He was in that house up there.
So you're like, okay, you're just going south a little bit down near Chicago. Is that like, where's Downers Grove?
Yeah, it's like in northwest suburbs.
Okay, gotcha.
Maybe more west if you're getting really specific, but...
no, I just like in my mind, that's just like all the greater. It's just Chicago up there. Yeah.
You're like 19 miles outside of Chicago. It'd take you 2 hours.
I was going to go, so 19 minutes away, right?
Yeah, no, unfortunately
not quite.
I live with him. I start selling new cars, and so at this time for me, it was my first experience ever with new cars, and so I never realized the difference in working for a new car manufacturer and everything else I had done in the past, working at an independent shop or a body shop or a used car lot. There couldn't have been a bigger difference inside of the same industry. And I fell in love with it. So that summer...
What was the piece? Because a lot of people, I mean, obviously, like used car sales is kind of like known as a grind.
Yeah.
Like universally, that's a challenging business.
It is.
And sometimes gets a bad rap.
It does.
Like the classic, like the used car salesman, right?
Yeah.
Like you just everyone can see that picture in their head.
Yeah.
But to say you did it for a summer and then fell in love with it, what about it did you love?
I loved a lot of stuff about it, but I would say initially the process of selling a new car, there's a way it made me feel. It was addicting, and to the point of like, I could do this and I could do it as a career.
From the outside looking in, obviously, not an expert, not a third generation in the automotive industry.
Right.
I feel like though, but as a one-time car purchaser, right? The salespeople that don't make, because this is a huge purchase. You know, in a lifetime, the average consumer, you probably know the
8
number.
cars.
8? How many brand new cars?
It depends on the buyer. Some people only buy new, some people only buy used, but the average person in their lifetime will purchase 8 cars.
8 cars.
Yeah.
So it's like a thing you do 8 times.
Yeah.
You know, you live to be, let's say, 80 years old or whatever.
Yep.
Like it's like once a decade.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big moment. It's kind of like buying a house. You know, you probably only do that 4 times.
Yeah.
And so like when it feels like, oh, this person gets me, and it's not just this transaction, and it's not just blah 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 blah. Like I think that's like the real magic that can happen.
I love training today in my role. So this month I've been training we went through probably not all 1,300 because they're not all customer facing, but about 1,000 of our employees. So we do that in our 3 different regions. So Fort Wayne, Lafayette, and Chicago, we do 2 sessions in each region. So 2 days. So it's 6 total sessions. And we cycle any customer-facing employee through this, and we do this quarterly. And I actually talked about it just yesterday. I was in Fort Wayne, and I said, I use that stat. The average consumer buys 8 cars in their lifetime, and the average Rohrman sales associate is selling 12 cars a month. So I said, guys and gals, we have to realize that and not become desensitized to what you do in 1 month is more than what one person will do in their lifetime. So how do you make it not a transaction? So like I was coaching a little bit on conversation before conversion. A lot of times we want to go right to the conversion, which is the sale. But if that's all we make it about, we're missing it, right? Yeah. Like the conversation matters. The most successful automotive sales associate, the conversation is something like this. I get to know my customer so well, and the conversations we have are so rich and so deep that when we're done, like hanging out inside the dealership, a side effect of the conversation is they buy a car. And like, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
And it's like, how do you do that without it being like weird?
Yes.
Where it's like, yeah, you're always sitting there and like, so you got kids? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Right. But it's like, if you're just a true conversationalist, you can do very well, and you can make happy customers,
That's right.
Yeah. That's
like,
really interesting.
Today, the industry, like I don't know how many times we sell a car, to be quite frank. The data shows that the average consumer on a new car is spending 28 days online before they hit submit or pick a phone up or anything like that. Yeah. So if you actually spent 28 days studying anything, you're going to know it pretty well. So by the time they hit submit, our customers, they know what car they want. They might have some questions that they couldn't figure out, but like that's becoming less and less. I mean, throw it in the chat. I mean, like
exactly,
it's going to answer all your questions.
Or like then there's like an auto reviewer, and then there's this TikTok page, and there's this that. They go in there, they might know just as much, if not more, about that specific model. Like I'm looking for the V6 Charger, blah 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 blah. And
that's right.
Yeah.
So then it's like, what's our job? As we still call ourselves sales associates. We're really guides. It's like, all right, so fill me in on your journey so far. Like, what brought you to this car? And they'll tell you and be like, great. So what can I do to help bridge anything that you weren't able to find, or do you just want to touch it? Like it's a machine still at the end of the day. So like the internet, it can tell us a lot of the head knowledge, but the feel, the smell of the car, pushing the buttons, these are all big touch points.
Is there like a moment, like within the sales cycle, within the customer journey of purchasing a car, where it's like when they do X, they're like, that's what they're more than likely going to buy this car?
Everyone's personalities are so unique and so different. Like I remember even when I was selling cars, I had the customers that would wear sunglasses the whole time, even inside. And they'd sit in my office with their arms crossed. And they were tough because I was just trying to be nice. I was like, can I get you anything else? Nope, don't want anything. And it's like, okay, well, do you want to buy the car? Yeah, I'm here. I'm here to buy the car. And it's like, okay. And there's just, it's almost like they read a book somewhere and they're like, do not have any emotional connection with the salesperson, or they'll get you, And it's like, and then you have people that are just really like, hey, I'm looking, and you can tell, like when you connect with that person after 30, 40 minutes, you have a car deal. Now it's just like, all right, you got to bring it home. Like And some people, they just really know what they want. But I want to say that's the most common customer though. Most people, they're still a little,
And they're like hesitant that because they've heard that like car salesmen are gonna like rip you off or whatever, right?
Yeah,
and it's like
absolutely.
Maybe they've never even had that experience personally. But you like go in there and you almost like don't want to give an inch because you're like, if I say I don't know what I'm talking about, like I'm totally screwed.
Yeah. When we do a lot of our corporate training, I bring it up often. We have this stigma in North America, and we have to overcome it. They make movies about it. It's funny. They have funny Badger commercials on YouTube about it. Trunk Monkey, all this. It's funny stuff, but at the same time, it's like, but that's the career that I'm in. Yeah. And this is not what we do, at least at Rohrman Automotive Group. That's not us, So we spend a lot of time focusing on who are we. We have a rich purpose statement. We have our value statement, and it's a trickle down effect, to change that culture. But one customer at a time, one store at a time, we're trying our best to say, that stigma, that's what it could have been years ago, and unfortunately, some stores it still is. But we're trying to make this change inside of our organization where it's not, because like we focus on customer experience.
Yeah. I'm actually going through this process. So my girlfriend, she lives down in Florida. Okay. And her car like broke down and she's like going through this buying process. And literally she's like, what car should I get? I was like, CRV. Like, just get a CRV. Like, there you go. You can't go wrong. It won't be like, and she's like, well, like, I can't go to a car dealership. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you just go there. And she's like, no chance. Like, I don't know anything about what anything. So like, I'm flying down this weekend and we're like going to go like look around and stuff. Cause like the stigma is that she's like, nope, as a 27, I gotta get her age right, 27-year-old, young woman. It's like, I can't go in there alone. Like, I'll get the worst deal, I don't even know how to buy a car. Yeah. So do you have advice for people out there of like, what are questions that you should ask, whether you're, buying from Rohrman here in Indiana or in the Chicagoland area, or you're just, you could be in Florida and you're going I'm going this weekend. What do I need to ask?
I think step one, it's not even what you need to ask. It's do your research. Like if you're specifically on new cars. So on new cars, all the information is out there. The incentives, the rebates, just know it's helpful to know that, I think, So going in there prior, like just know, like, you know what the MSRP is, the invoice is out there, you know what the rebates are, and so start there, and then I would say what I would be looking for is a relationship. Like I really like to meet a professional. I love it. And not just inside of automotive, but inside of any place you go, Best Buy, you go and it just happened to me like 6 months ago. I went in to buy the cheapest TV I could find that was still a smart TV for streaming. And he was a young dude, like early 20s. And he's like, well, why do you want that one? And I said, well, because it's $200 and it has all the streaming stuff. He goes, oh. And then I was like, well, why did you respond like that? Why did you ask? Is there something wrong with the TV? He goes, no. He goes, but there's other options. And I was like, what would you do? It seems like you know what you're talking about. He goes, can I show you something? And I said, sure. And literally after like 10 minutes, I was laughing to myself because I was like, this dude, he's great. And I'm watching a professional salesman, and I appreciate that. So after like 30 minutes, I was like, all right, I don't have time anymore for this. So I looked at him, I was like, dude, you are awesome. Yeah. You're killing it. What TV would you recommend I buy? He goes, probably this one. I was like, done. Let him know up front. I have to go. I was like, I gave him my card. I was like, if you ever want to sell cars and you would crush it, let me know. I think experience in purchasing a car is potentially more important than these witty questions you got to say. Because if your experience is good, you're going to go back and you're going to feel comfortable. Because there's nothing worse than like walking into a store and feeling uncomfortable, feeling intimidated. Like
you're kind of like jumping into like a pool full of piranhas a little bit. And you're like, oh gosh, they're coming for me. Like, you want to feel like welcomed, and you want to have a great experience, and you want to just feel like a name you can trust.
That's right. Yeah. So, I would say, the advice I'd give is when you're doing your shopping, like know your numbers, like it's all out there, and know like when you see like costs, that there are costs on cars that if you go below there, the dealer loses money on it. And we sell lots of cars at a loss. It's just part of the business that we're in, so.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because based on like how long it's been on your lot, like the space where it's like, well, if that wasn't here,
That's
we
right.
could have another one here that could move quicker. Like what is there like software or something behind the scenes that's telling you like, yeah, we gotta turn this spot over?
Well, it's not, there's not software down to the car spot itself. We track really heavily, and all the GMs have this, where you can have a car sit on your lot, a new car, for 1 month and it not really cost you anything because you get a credit from the manufacturer. Now, here's what I love about the car business. That credit, it can cover as an expense, or it can be picked up as a credit if you sell the car fast enough, right? Because it's there to cover the interest expense of the car sitting there. If there's no interest expense, they don't remove the credit. Now, if you don't sell the car for 2 or 3 months, the credit's already been used, and now you have expense of the car sitting there. So there's a business practice
so it's
inside
like
of
you're incentivized to like first day it's dropped off, like, okay, let's get this thing because then the credit comes. Or then it's like you're incentivized later on down the road to be like, we just got to get rid of this thing.
Time to go.
Like, so it's either like right in the beginning or like right at the wow, that's interesting.
So and if you had 15 dealers in the room, they would all have probably a different spin on their perspective on, like, we call that the turn, like how fast you want to turn. And our mentality is we like to turn really fast. I don't like cars sitting, new or used cars. Bad things happen to cars that sit long, so.
It's kind of like houses too, right?
It's true.
It's like, oh, this has been on the market for 20, like especially today in Indianapolis, like specifically, oh, it's been on the market for 20 days. Like, what's wrong with this place? Like something something has to be wrong.
Yes. It's weird, because it's true with houses. If no one's living in the home, weird stuff happens. Like it starts falling. You'd think it'd be the opposite. No one's in it. It's still brand new. It's like, no, there's something about like people in the home, and I don't know. And same thing with cars.
Yeah, cars are built to move.
They're built to move. Yeah. So wow. I mean, the sitting there it's not good for them.
That was a fun little like side quest there. I do want to get back to this journey. So you spend a summer selling cars with your grandfather.
Yep.
And it was at that moment that you knew like this was what you wanted to do?
I knew. Yeah. So I went back 2005. I went back to school, changed my major to marketing. I sold cars the rest of the summers in Schaumburg at a Honda store. Yeah. And in 2007, my grandfather, he was great. He was also a hard dude. So, I mean, he was all business first. So, I was talking about my career path a little bit. So like, I haven't graduated quite yet. And I said, Grandpa, what does my career path look like? And he goes, I think the most basic thing that you need to understand is if you can't do it, I'm going to fire you. And he goes,
hell yeah, Grandpa.
And my entire family, they all know this to be true. Like, it's just, that's how he was. I mean, if you can't, he will give you the opportunity, but it ends there. Then it's like, all right, it's
which is good,
it's great.
Especially being in the family business where it's like, hey, everyone knows it's like, hey, there's no like, he's not playing favorites here. No. It's like if I can't do the job,
you can't do it. I mean, he goes, I'll give you the opportunity, but at the end of the day, if you can't do it, I just want you to know.
Were there ever any moments, like especially early in your career, where you were like, oh, dude, I'm so like, Grandpa's gonna be upset?
Yeah. For sure. He was just masterful in his ability to read people well. And so he knew me really well from 2 years of living with him and then working pretty closely. And so as I progressed, he knew how to push me. And he would push and push. And my pushback was, I never pushed back unless it was wrong, even if it was like, I don't know if I can do it, I'm going to try anyways, and he kept pushing me and to the point where this was years down the road now. At this time, I was running a dealership for him. I was the general manager of our Honda store in Schaumburg. I want to say that this was like 2010. End of May, we were on pace to break every record the store had ever had. In May, the pace was already there. And he's had that store since 1984. It's a big store. I'm not the type of guy to ever pound my chest. And so I wasn't. So I knew he knew that. So I didn't need to bring it up. And he kept pressing me and pressing me. And finally, he got me to the point where I said, you know, Grandpa, at this point, I really am giving you everything I have. And I understand if it's not enough, I can go do something else. And he said, babe, you're doing great. Keep it up. And he stopped pressing at that point. And I look back at it. He was refining me for years. So from 2005 to 2010, so for that 5-year span, we had great conversations, we had hard conversations, and he kept pushing me forward. He kept putting me to the edge, putting me to the edge, putting me to the edge. And I almost feel like he was doing it on purpose. He either was doing it on purpose or he just was, I don't know what else you'd call it, but he gets me to the edge and he pushed a little too hard. And, you know, like I respected him so much. I would never got mad or angry. That's not how I operate. And that's what I said to him. I said, you know, if it's not enough, I get it, you know, and I'll do something else. And he knew. He got me to my breaking point, and then he let me go. Yeah. And I don't know if he's trying to show me something about myself. I don't know if he was trying to figure out how far he could push me, but that was 2010, and we did that year. We broke every record that store had.
Especially when you think of like third generation family businesses, like a lot of them don't make it that far.
They don't,
you know, or if it is, by the time it gets down to the third generation, whoever's running it is like so worried. He's like, maintain, don't screw it up, like blah, 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 like, and not really thinking about growing and expanding or being, because of this balance between showing respect to the past and you know, like honoring a legacy, but also continuing to like drive when it's just your startup or when it's your thing that you built. It's like, I can do whatever I want with it, you know?
That's right.
So I think that's a hard thing, but it is interesting to think about your grandfather, the refinement there, and the fact that like he would have, I mean, not obviously we've talked for 40 minutes now or whatever it is, but I believe he would have fired you. Like, he's like, yep, you can't do the job. And I think that that's a little piece that like has made you into an excellent operator today.
Yeah. I give him a ton of credit for that. I mean, as we moved forward in our relationship together, he kept going. So he knew, like, we almost entered into another chapter after that.
Yeah.
So like the first 5 years of our working together, I think he was trying to see what he had. You know, it's almost like clay in a potter's hand. You know, like he was trying to like, what is this? What type of vessel can this thing turn into, right? I don't know. He got it to where he wanted to, and then in 2013, he platformed me. So he took me out of a single store and he put me over the 14 stores, and was like the next step in our relationship. So that's when we really started working side by side. From 13 to really the end of 17, 18, a little bit, we were, I want to say inseparable, but I was with him a lot. And we were, he did stuff in Indiana, and at that time I wasn't doing anything with the Indiana stores. I was all Chicago, but it was hiring and training general managers and just overall operations. Like that's what we did together, and I have such fond memories of that. My grandfather had this internal clock, you know, from 8:30 in the morning to 9 p.m. at night. He was on every day. Besides Sundays, he was on, and you could just tell he wouldn't relax. He was on, and he loved it. You know, it's what he did. But right at 9:05, he'd sit back in his chair, he'd undo the knot in his tie, and he could just chill. My wife probably didn't love this, but I was with him many, many nights. You know, at 9:30. But it was beneficial to my career growth because that's when we got to break stuff down. When we were selling cars and selling service, we were on the clock and we were solving problems or trying to make things better. But then once the clock was off and he knew all the stores were dark, we could then get real, you know, and get past the work side. And I have so many fond memories sitting in his office, you know, and it was I knew when the sign was the tie would come down. Like that's when he could chill. Yeah. And you know, not many people had to see that side of him because they weren't willing to put the hours in. Yeah. Right. Like he wouldn't do that with you at 5 p.m. Like it was 9:30 at night. And if you wanted to, he'd sit there with you till 11. I still remember, you know, backtracking a little bit. because this refinement stage, he was doing it with me when I was selling cars. So he told me I was 21 and 2005, and he goes, I said, what are my hours? He goes, they're on the door. I said, okay. So that was my hours, and I went to my GM at the time, and he goes, I don't want you, we call those bust outs when you work from 8 to 9 every single day. And the GM goes, I don't want you doing that. I said, well, you want to tell my grandfather? He goes, nope. He goes, how about you get here like at 9:30 and you can work like a 9 to 9. He goes, nothing happens in the dealership at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, all right, I'll try to figure that side of it out. So that's what I did. And at this time, there's no need for a day off. So I worked Monday through Saturday, and I worked 9 to 9. But
9.
Oh yeah. So the economy was rocking, in the early 2000s. And so very rarely would we close at 9 p.m. The guys would leave that had families. I would stay and sell cars. I mean, the latest customer that I greeted at the door was at 11 p.m. in Chicago. And I sold him a car at 1 in the morning, and the only time I couldn't do it was, it's illegal to sell a car in Illinois on Sundays. So if I couldn't have the deal closed on Saturday before midnight, we'd have to, because everything's timestamped, we'd have to start it back up on Monday. And so most evenings, I got home around 10:30. That was my, so I'd leave his house around 9:30, and I get home around 10:30. If he was in town, I cannot remember a night where he would not be up. And the house would be dark. I mean, his wife at the time, she was sleeping. The house was dark. He would sit at his kitchen table. It was like an old mobster movie, and just 2 lights on over the table, the rest of the house dark. And he'd scare me half to death sometimes because it was a blind corner. So I lived in his basement. So I'd come in through the garage and I'd just go down, and I was tired. I'd been grinding for 12 hours. He goes, hey, and I'd jump because I didn't know he was still awake. Sit down. Tell me about your day. And we did this every night. And there's sometimes I was, it's hard to work and not sell a car. You work there all day, and, you talk to 5 people, and it just didn't happen, and you can get kind of down. And, he just encouraged me. He goes, you know what that means? I said, what does that mean, Grandpa? He goes, well, every 4th person you talk to on average, you sell a car. So that means like you're going to sell 3 cars tomorrow because the first 3 people you talk to, boom, boom, boom. I was like, really? And he's like, oh yeah, it's going to happen. He wasn't always right, but it was true. Like there is like this equation to selling cars, because most people don't come into a dealership just to come into a dealership. They want to do something. So, the best salespeople are closing 1 out of 3 people they talk to. That's just like, that's a fact. You can get a little bit better than that, but then you start getting into like, 2.7 or something like that.
Yeah. So 1 out of 3. And how many conversations on average do you have in a day if you're working a shift?
Well, that's a big store that I was working at. So we were selling like 300 new cars a month and like 175 used cars a month. So I could, if you wanted to. So much of there's not a whole lot of structure in sales at a dealership, because it's kind of a free for all to some extent. Like you have tasks that you need to do, but then it's kind of like, well, do you want to go pursue the front door where people walk through the front door? That's changed a little bit with the internet today, but for that's how it was. So like I literally would just stand by the front door after my tasks were done and just stand there and wait. I'd greet people, and they were like, they're here to see someone else because they had an appointment. Great. I'd walk them to that person. I'd go back and stand by the front door. So like if I really worked that 12-hour shift hard, I could easily talk to 4 people on average per day. Some days were more and some days were less, but I'd say on average
4, and then that good salesperson, you're getting 1 every 3. So
yeah, I was selling 20 cars a month. So it was.
And on average today, a little bit ago, you said the average salesperson sells 12.
Yeah, and that hasn't changed. The average salesperson in the country is 10 to 12. It's just the way it is. And so much of that, it's not because they're not good salespeople. It's because, I've had this conversation with my sales staff so many times. It's like, hey, you work an 8-hour shift. How many of those hours are you actually working? You go to lunch for 2 hours, or you play games on your phone, or XYZ, right? You talk with your employees, or are you actually like pursuing, your job description, and that's the difference. The folks that do that every day consistently, they're selling 20, 30. I mean, there's people selling 40 cars a month.
What's the
there.
most that anyone within Rohrman Automotive have ever sold in 1 month?
I had a guy out of our Toyota store in Oak Brook. He sold 60 cars in 1 month.
60 cars?
Yes.
Holy
True story. To me, I'm just like, it's impossible, but he did. I mean, he sold 60 cars.
That's like an all-time run. Like, gotta be like, you just gotta be walking home at night, like, let's go.
You felt good about yourself.
Yeah. Toyota.
Cars.
I mean, those things sell themselves.
Toyota's a great car.
This episode of Get In is brought to you by our friends at Indie Grills and Outdoor Living, a local business here in central Indiana. They specialize in custom patios, fireplaces, and outdoor kitchens that are designed around how you actually want to use your space. Whether it's a quiet evening with family or hosting a big group of friends, their team focuses on creating a space that works for you. I love that they aren't some big box operation. They are Indiana folks helping Indiana homeowners build spaces that last. If you've been wanting to make your backyard more inviting, Indie Grills can make it happen. Check them out at indiegrills.com. I do want to talk about the moment, like you talk about having these late night conversations with your grandfather. Mm-hmm. Where was the moment that you knew that like taking over the family business was going to be your destiny? Like, what was the conversation that you had with your grandfather?
Like, my grandfather was not one to ever project where you're going on you. Like, that was not his management style. Like, I don't, like, thinking back, he was not going to be like, someday you could be the GM of this store. Like, that's not the way he motivated. It was more or less, it was like the takeaway clothes for him. It's like, well, you're just not going to keep that job if you can't be at least one of the best ones in there because you're a Rohrman. And so like, it was like, oh, so I need to be the best one, And so like almost every promotion I got, I had no idea it was coming. Like, I found out about it when everyone else did. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be the used car manager now? Great, let's go. Literally, like, even when I got my first GM job, I think it was 2009, 2010. And it was at this end of the year banquet. We call it Manager of the Year. So every manager in the state of Illinois was at this banquet hall. It was like 10:30 at night. These things, because all his stuff, the store had to be closed for him to do anything. So we didn't even start till 9. So we'd go to like 1 or 2 in the morning. So like halfway through this banquet, he stands up and he promotes my GM to a director role. And someone's like, oh, that's cool. I wonder who's going to be the GM of our store. And then he calls me up in front of everyone. I'm just like, oh, this is happening right now? It's like, okay. I was 28, so I was like, let's go. It's go time. So like, that's how he operated. In the background, his inner circle of like directors and leaders, like, they were really great folks. And, I heard some stuff through them. Like, because my grandfather, he might not have been the encouraging one, but they'd come behind him and encourage me if we had a sideways conversation or something like that. So I kind of knew at some point, like, this is going somewhere. I didn't have an idea potentially of what it looked like. He platformed me to the Chicago stores, like I said before, in like 2013. That's when he really started teaching me like operationally. He's like, hey, being successful in the automobile industry doesn't mean we sell cars. There's a lot more to it. And so I was like, that phrase, I was like, what does that even mean? And so I learned what that meant. Just what does it look like to run a new car operation when you get to multi-roofs, right? So it's different. If you only have 2 stores, your operation will look very different than what I'm running today. I would say for anything that looks similar to what I'm doing, you'd have to have at least 7 to 10 stores even before we could start talking, just because you need some of that ability to span and whatnot. So my grandfather, he passed away in 2020. In 2018, he had a stroke. I was in Las Vegas at a dealer conference, and I got the call. So I flew back April 1st, 2018. It was a Sunday, and I was in his hospital room. And my dad was in the room. The doctors were in the room. And I just got back, and I said, hey, Grandpa, how you doing? He looked at me, he goes, I'm doing okay. I started to talk. He goes, stop. And I said, okay. He grabbed my hand, and he goes, I know the next thing you're going to tell me is like, you can get better and, so on and so forth. He's like, and I know that, but I need to ask you something. I said, okay. He's like, I know the only way I'm going to get better is if I know you're running the organization. So I need you to promise me that that's what you're going to do. And like, he had my hand in it was an awkward grab. He had my hand. I looked over at my dad. I was like, what's going on right now? And he goes, what's your answer?
Your dad or your grandpa?
My grandpa. And I said, Grandpa, if that's what you want, I'll do it. He goes, that's what I want. That's how I'll get better. And I said, okay. And that was it. Like, so that was a definitive time in my career where I'm just like, I have an opportunity. It's go time. And so I pressed hard, so from April 1st, 2018, it was keep the legacy.
Yeah.
This foundation is super strong. It's time to build and grow. And so, the last, 7, 8 years, that's what we've done. You know? And so that's that story. And like, everything was a surprise. Like, it was like, potentially I knew someday maybe I'll run it, maybe I'll have a store of my own, or something like that. I don't know if I ever thought that I'd actually be doing his job, to be quite frank. I don't know if that was ever in the cards. Maybe just running Chicago, or I don't know. But that moment in 2018, it defined the future for me of where I was going.
Well, then talk to us about, the last 7 years of growing Rohrman Automotive Group and all the innovation that has come in. You talk about like all the, 2017, 2018, like TikTok car reviewers weren't a thing.
Right.
Like now the big thing is, oh my gosh, there's these two guys on social media, Russ Flips Whips.
Oh yeah, I know him.
AMG Jared.
I don't know him, but I know Russ.
He's the one who did like the Borat video.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, for some reason, they've been in my feed a lot lately. Like
Russ is a stud. I know him personally. He's a really good dude. Yeah, he's a really good.
Well,
dude.
he just put something out where he's like, one of my clients wanted to sell their dealership, and within like 24 hours, they had 100 leads to buy a dealership.
Yeah,
like that's crazy.
It's awesome. Yeah,
he seems like a good dude.
He's a good dude. We did this big grand opening. We have one of the largest Honda stores in the country in Schaumburg. It's huge, 180,000 square feet. And we invited a bunch of social media influencers to come and like hype it up. So he was one of the guys
that
cool. Came. So we got to know him a little bit, but it was pretty
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, talk to us about the innovations that have been coming and how you've been balancing maintaining legacy while also innovation and pushing the needle.
Right off the bat, I knew step one of the things that my grandfather did, I'm sure there was a reason behind it, but it wasn't my thing, was he kept the stores very separate. We're not friendly with another Rohrman store inside the organization. It was his thing. Like he liked to put us against each other.
Yeah, competition across.
Which doesn't make sense. Like a Ford and Honda store, we really don't compete, but we can actually help each other instead of, so I thought right away, I'm going to unify the group. And so, because I think that's a great way to grow. Like, it is very hard to send people out to outside training because they don't know how we operate. So they're going to tell you how to do something, but it doesn't mean that it actually aligns with your structure. But when you have that many employees in that many stores, if they're aligned, it makes training great, because now I can start implementing from the top down. This is our process. This is our structure. This is who we are. So right off the bat, I started doing in-store meetings every month without fail. And at that time, we had 25 stores. We sold a few stores. So I did that for 2 years straight. I was in every store every month. I was in more hotels than I was in my own bedroom. And I had a process of a meeting that they were about 2 to 3 hours each in each store. And I met with every manager every month. Inside that process, we started creating this Rohrman family atmosphere, where, I like the idea of being sticky. Like, I think one thing that's really important to me is tenure inside of the auto group. I hate turnover. I love pouring into our staff. And so from 2018, our average tenure, and I'm going to say this number, this is very common in automotive, was about 2.5 years. So the average person would stay with us for 2.5 years. Unfortunately, it's a high turnover industry. Today, we've grown that to 4.8. So It takes a long time to grow tenure. My goal is to get to 7. Like, I don't know if I can get, it is a high turnover industry, but I believe we can get to that, to average 7 years.
Yeah.
So
especially in like today's age, like people aren't like legacy career loyalists.
No, they don't commit. Folks don't commit to something long term.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because like I'm sure you can't have like even if you brought in 7 awesome sales associates, it's like you can't have 7 managers at the same store. So it's like you probably have to move and go do something.
Yes,
like the career, like it's a pyramid of like development and growth and promotion.
That's hard. That is definitely a thing, right? As you grow people, unfortunately, you just don't have enough spots as you get people great.
And then maybe the like other dealerships are like, oh, you guys come through good leadership structure, and like we want to bring you over, and you don't have to like move to a new city.
And in all honesty, I celebrate those wins, because they'll come to me like, Ryan, I have a job offer, and I'll look at them like, I think you should take it, because I unfortunately don't have that for you. And the auto industry is a small world. It doesn't mean our paths are not going to cross again, right?
Yeah. So,
hey, you have my cell phone number. If anything ever changes, just stay in communication with me. We'll see where this thing goes.
Yeah.
So that was happening. But at the same time, I was like, we need to redefine our identity. So my grandfather, he had very few people under him. He loved the direct connect to the GM, which is very, very inefficient and time consuming. But he liked that. So from 2018 to 2020, I realized really fast that's not efficient. Like I can't be everything for everybody. So I started hiring directors.
That has to be draining too.
It was
like, kudos to your grandfather for being able to do that.
Yep.
Like, I don't like a lot of people could not handle. I mean, how many? You talking about 27 stores? 27?
I mean, at the top of his career, he was pressing 40 dealerships at one time.
Like 40 people that he's like having 40 direct reports.
Yes,
is crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's honestly, it's not efficient. I mean, it hinders your growth. Like you have to realize that you cannot lead that many people successfully. It doesn't mean that's not good. It's just could be better. And I think that is the desire is like, what can we do to get better? So put this great team of directors in place. And what I love about this part of the story is we just grew. Like every time I added someone, we grew more. We grew more. We started breaking every record the group had ever had instantly. We were hiring better people, which helped. But that was a lot because of the directors, because they were in the market that we were working in. So they were there all the time. They were there. Like you need help. You had a guy. Like even when I was doing everything for everyone, like my phone and emails were just nuts. Like I had to tell people, like, because it wasn't just them. I had all the manufacturers that wanted my time too. So I was literally putting people off. I was like, is it an emergency? I'll call you tomorrow. And that's a terrible way to lead folks.
It's hard.
Put this director team together. They're studs, and they're still doing a great job for me. But while that was happening, I was like, who are we? Like, I love like statements of truth, and I love that concept of a purpose statement. So we hired this guy. A central location is like Maryville, Indiana. So we were in like a Holiday Inn conference room.
Come on.
Yes. So we're in like a Holiday Inn conference room. I had 15 people. So like the 15 people were in there were people who'd been with the auto group a long time. So like tenure, and my director team. And I was like, all right, guys, we shut the door. We're not leaving until we have a purpose statement. So it took us 3 hours. And so this guy kind of walked us through. He goes, all right, go start writing sentences down about your purpose. So, after like an hour, we had a paragraph. He goes, all right, a good purpose statement is like, it's a sentence or less. And so we kept redefining. And so finally we were looking at it. We're like, there it is. So our purpose statement is driving relationships, awesome experiences, period. That's what we do. So we established that. And so now when we train, it's, hey, in everything we do, we're going to drive the relationship and have an awesome experience. And that's not just for our customers, it's for our employees as well. And so like we really try to live that out in everything we do, so whether it's customer facing or whether it's to our employees. And that has changed our culture in a big way.
I mean, this has been a heck of a story. We are at time.
Nope.
I have a couple fun questions for you as we wrap up.
Okay.
From Lafayette, then went up to Wisconsin, then spent some time in the Chicagoland area. But you've been a full-time Hoosier for the last 5 years or so?
5 years and the first 15 years.
There you go. So 20 combined years. Mm-hmm. First one. So would you say that Indiana's home?
Yes.
This question is brought to you by our friends at JC Hart, a leader in creating enjoyable living experiences at apartment communities all across Indiana and beyond. Check them out at homeisjchart.com. So my question for you, why do you call Indiana home?
Some of it's that home is where the heart is. I was born and raised here. I have super fond memories of Lafayette and just growing up there. And my family's there, So we were in the Chicago market for 15 years or so. But I have 3 younger brothers. So 2 of them live in Lafayette. My parents live in Lafayette. And a lot of it was just, to be by our family and move back to that. The people in Indiana are great. If you've never lived anywhere else outside of Indiana, you'll realize, I'm sure there's other nice states too, but the folks in Indiana are just super nice. It took me a little time to slow down, because the fast-pacedness of the Chicago market, people don't say hi to you. They don't care to get to know you. I remember waving at my neighbors and they wouldn't wave back. And I was like, what did I do? Even checking out, you'd say, if you said thank you, they might say you're welcome. Where when I came back to Lafayette, I was checking out and the checkout folks want to have a conversation. And I'm just like, oh, I need to slow down. And this is great. And I just think it's a great place to raise a family, because that's, I have 3 kids and, that's, I think the legacy of my family, I'd love to see them stay and put their roots into Indiana.
How would you compare Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota?
Illinois and Minnesota have a lot of similarities. You have the Minnesota nice thing. So Chicago's not nicety, but it's just fast paced and more cutthroat. At least in the burbs. That's not true about the whole state.
But yeah, you're talking about just Chicago in the suburbs, right? Yeah.
St. Paul has some similar vibes to that, but it's a little slower pace. Wisconsin and Indiana are definitely more similar to each other. It's a slower movement and people are friendly. If you need help, if you go to your neighbor and ask for help, I would say most of them will just show up and do it. I only went to college in St. Paul, so I don't want to give too much of a slap on them. But I'll say in Illinois, that's not true.
Yeah.
Or you wouldn't want your neighbor. You wouldn't want their help because and I don't know. It's interesting scenarios sometimes. So
yeah, that is interesting when you're technically all Midwest states, but very different experiences based on where you live.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to have guests that have spent time with it, because a lot of it's you bring in a lifelong Hoosier. It's Indiana is just the best thing ever. Exhibit A.
There you go.
And they're like, yeah, but what does this guy know?
Yeah.
He's never seen anything. So I always love having that. You guys have really leaned into social media.
Yep.
Specifically TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the strategy there and what your thoughts are and what your most fun TikToks to be a part of and create have been?
The whole journey on social media has been interesting. So, every year we try to start the year off with a phrase. So, 2 years ago, it was own it. So it was whatever it is, what you're going to go after, just own it. Don't go halfway. Yeah. So in February of that year, we were talking about, hey, we all have these unique platforms. Let's own it. And so we were talking specifically about social media. And so some people just went with it, So I personally don't do a whole lot of TikTok, but I have the staff at Rohrman. I mean, we encourage them to hey, do your thing, and so they've done some crazy stuff, funny stuff. We had a podcast for a Driving Relationships podcast. That was fun. We had all these people. The Russ Phillips was actually on that, I think, at one time. But what we've seen inside of that is just, as we get older, that next gen, the way that they consume information is changing. It's even changing today. But the gen of in their mid-20s to early 30s right now, it's all social media. That's where they get their information from. It's their Google search. It's everything.
It's you Google something and you have to go read this article and you have to surf you have to figure out what's AI, what's not AI,
yes.
Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Versus you just search it on TikTok and it's oh, this person's gonna tell me about it in 90 seconds.
That's right. Yeah.
Sure.
So then it's well, all these ads I'm running, I'm missing a whole section of buyers.
Yeah.
And right now that is arguably it's the core buyer right now. Late 20s into their mid 30s, they got a lot of money.
Well, okay, never mind.
They're earning their money. They're looking to buy that first or second new car. And it's like, well, you don't watch TV really. You stream everything. You're not as much on the website. You're on the internet. But how do we reach you? And it's like, well, social media, right? And so we've really leaned into that.
Yeah.
And you know, I do a lot on LinkedIn. On my platform, I spend, shoot a lot of video, put a lot of content out, just like what we're doing. And I'm trying to get sticky. Like that's all I'm trying to be I've hired so many great folks off LinkedIn, and it's because that's what they're looking for. It's people aren't really applying to help wanted ads anymore. It's who do you know?
Did you I didn't even know there was still help wanted ads.
Oh, they're out there, man. Career Builder and some of the other ones.
Help wanted ads.
Yeah.
Well, tell your team we need to do a video. We need to do a car video.
Yeah.
I have a fun car story.
Okay.
So like this was what got me into like this today.
Okay.
It all started in March of 2024.
Cool.
I had we were hosting the podcast, but no one listens to anyone's podcast. It takes a long time to build up. Yeah. And I wanted people to start listening quicker. So it was March 2024. And I was putting out Indiana content. I had 7,000 followers. And I was like, Indy 500 is what Indiana is known for.
Yes.
I need to do something crazy. So I went and I put out a video that said, I'm on a mission to be the first truck in the infield at the Indianapolis 500.
Okay.
I don't own a truck.
Yeah.
And I was going to host a tailgate and did all this stuff. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and documented buying this 1986 Dodge
Awesome.
W250 and went through the whole process. We had to flip it, get it right. There was a squirrel living in the...
Oh, my word.
It was awesome.
That's
People
cool.
loved it.
Yeah.
I gained 15,000 followers and I ended up working with sponsors and hosted an all Indiana tailgate at the Indy 500 where 400 people showed up and beer, meat, everything.
Yes.
We did not go to Kroger or Walmart. Everything was sourced from Indiana.
Really?
And you could just have whatever you wanted because it all came from sponsors.
Oh, that's cool.
And by the end of it, I had made I made $10,000 in sponsorship. And I was like, if I can make 10 grand from tailgating, I could build a business around this. And I quit my job the Tuesday after Memorial Day.
I love that.
Rocking. And it was just cars. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, just people talking about seeing the experience and getting up to peek inside. I saw one of the videos you guys put out of monthly commission check delivery. And it's who would have thought 5 years ago that people would want to watch a video of people receiving their paycheck?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
You got to think of something new. Don't imitate something else. You got to make it your own. There's a guy in TikTok that throws plungers. Have you seen this dude?
Yes.
He throws plungers at buildings. And so now you can pay him. So we did it. He came to our Toyota store and we paid him 10 grand to come throw plungers at our building. And it's when they threw the idea at me, I was like, really?
That's what's going to move cars.
We're going to pay him to throw toilet plungers at our beautiful facility? And they're like, yeah. I was like, whatever. I was like, let's try it.
How many views did it get?
Tens of thousands of views.
People come in and are like, oh, is this where they threw the plungers?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we sold a car off of it. I'm sure we did, but it's not always that instant gratification though. It's building into something.
And it's I feel a lot of times I'm 28, so the 25 to 32-year-olds want to do business with people that they like, and they find out. That's the whole world wants to do business with people they like. But today you find out that you like people through their social media content.
Absolutely right.
And it's then you meet them in person, you're like, oh, you're the same. I like you. The plunger guy.
Yes.
No way. That's so cool. I love it. Okay, as we keep rolling through here, what kind of car do you drive?
I have an F-150 Raptor.
Oh, that's
what I
nice.
drive.
That's a fun one.
Yep.
If you were recommending 3 cars for, let's say the 30-year-old professional, what do you recommend they get? What's going to be reliable? What's going to be fun? What do they need?
I love the Toyota 4Runner. I like the look. That car's bulletproof. If you are I'm going to drive it till the wheels fall off, you're going to get over 200,000 miles in that thing if you take care of it. It's just a great car.
And the back window rolls down.
Yeah, it's awesome. They brought that back. I'm so glad
I have
they
a
did.
Jeep now, but I had a 4Runner. It was my first, I saved a bunch of money, about a 2006
Yes.
4Runner. And I had the sunroof and the back window rolled down, and I just felt like I was so cool.
Oh, man. I remember I was selling used cars with my dad in it was either late 90s, early 2000s, and we sold this. It was a 95 4Runner. That body style was awesome.
Yes.
And he was so excited. the first thing he did is went camping with his son, and like it was. They sent us pictures. I mean, it was
That's so
just
cool.
a cool, like. But that car's iconic.
Yeah.
They have not messed it up. It looks. I mean, they just redid it like a year ago or something like that. It looks great. It drives great. They have a hybrid V6 in it too. So like
You talk
cool.
about iconic. Are there other cars that are just timeless to you?
Civic. I still I was selling new Hondas in 2005, and I will say the 2005 Honda Civic was ugly. It was not a good looking car. And
Is that like the 4-door one that kind of looks like a turtle shell a little bit?
that was better. That was like 2006, 2007. The 2005 was a box. It was, and I still remember I was.
Oof.
Yeah. So I was selling this lady the Civic, and I looked at her at one point, and was like, "You're just not excited about this car, are you?" And she goes, "Well, it's a Civic," and I was like, "But it's a new car." I was like, "Why are you buying it?" She goes, "It's a Civic." Her answer for everything was, "It's a Civic," and it's because it's.
She's probably still driving that car today.
She very well could be.
Honestly.
But that car, I don't know if this is still true today, but when I was running Honda, they said the Civic had such great brand recognition that you could have a separate standalone dealership called Civic and only sell Civics and be just fine. Like that car is just.
That's so true.
It's my opinion that in that small sedan segment, there's nothing that holds a candle to that car. Like the Corolla is great. It's not a Civic. Like there's just
People swear by them.
they're great cars.
Yeah.
So iconic.
That would be interesting. Like y'all, like a used into Civic, and you just sling Civics.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Is there another Indiana business? So out of the car realm, but is there an Indiana business that you love to support?
The non-for-profit stuff
Yeah.
in Lafayette. So we just did something with the Humane Society there, and it was super cool. It's one of the nicest Humane Societies I've ever been to. We have this thing called Rohrman Impact, where it's like, what can we do to not have to spend money, but still impact the communities that we're in? So like when you asked me that question, I went more to like we did something with Feed My Starving Children up in Illinois.
Yeah.
Or Karen's Cart in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Like that's an awesome thing. Phil's Friends is a great one. These are all around like kids.
Yeah.
The Humane Society, Paws. When you asked me that, I went to all those because we've just been doing a lot of that lately.
That's awesome.
It's not mandatory. It's if you want to show up and do it, go for it. And so, I mean, it's cool when your employees just show up and
make an impact in their communities for sure. Okay, final 3 questions that we ask everyone who comes on the podcast, all about the state of Indiana. First thing, what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
It's not just a crossroads. That is an interesting one because, for many years when we travel, like a family vacation or something, we told people, yeah, we're from Chicago. And it was like, oh. And now we tell people we're from Indiana. And they're like, oh, the crossroads. It's like, no. It's way more than that. It's, just like business, it's all about people. Indiana, it's about people. And, you could have skyscrapers that touch the sky. If the people are rough or unfriendly, why do you want to live there? And that's what I think is really unique to Indiana. It's people. It's not only great people, but I don't know if we want to go here, but it's great politics. Like it is phenomenal to have a business in this state. I mean, other states make it challenging, and Indiana doesn't. They support the entrepreneur, which I think is great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It goes a long ways. So
Heck yeah. This is now a time where you get to shed some light, share some love with something in the state of Indiana that might get overlooked. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Turkey Run State Park. So we like to we've gotten into hiking a lot lately, and so we make multiple trips to do that.
It does not feel like you're in Indiana.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, Indiana's beautiful, but it's mountainous. There's rocks. We took our kids to the ice box for the first time, and we had to climb down those ladders, and they did great.
It's super cool,
but super fun. Prophetstown State Park, which is in my backyard, that place is cool. Campground. There's a cool water park there, but the history of that place. I mean, it's been there forever. So.
If there was one spot around Lafayette, like if we were driving through and you could only visit one thing while you were in town, what would you tell people to do?
I love Purdue. I didn't go to school there, but I love Purdue. So I love taking people to the basketball games, and so it's super fun to do. I think that's a unique experience, like it helps that they're really good right now and they have been, but it's just fun, experiencing that. Living in Chicago, it was all about pro sports, and they're cool, but man, college sports, awesome.
It's
and
great.
Indiana has a lot of great college sports.
Absolutely.
I'm not an IU guy for sure, but you got them, Purdue, Butler, and you got
Notre Dame.
Notre
right?
Dame,
Come on.
that's right.
The classic is Purdue and Notre Dame. It's like,
Yes.
wait, those are in Indiana?
Yes.
You're like, yeah. Final question.
Yep.
This has been a spectacular episode. Thank you so much for sharing all the knowledge, the legacy, 50 years, incredible. This is an opportunity that helps us find new guests or just people in the state that are doing interesting things. Who's a Hoosier that we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
One is my cousin, Laura Fleischer. So she is awesome. So she's not in automotive directly. She runs and is a partner of OMG. It's an advertising company, and they are cutting the edge in automotive tech. And she would be a phenomenal person to get and talk. And she's a Hoosier, all through and through. The other person is a friend of mine out of Lafayette. His name is Andrew Stanko, and he's a stud. When I think of an entrepreneur, that's him. He's a from nothing story. He owns his own business today.
What does he do?
Couple things, but he's in construction, and so roofing is his main thing. Then he got into rental properties throughout really Lafayette and West Lafayette, but he does a lot more than just that. And he has a heart for people. He's super involved. He's one of those guys when you're in Lafayette, everyone knows who he is because he's just at everything. And young guy, full of piss and vinegar, and he's fun. He's super easy to talk to.
We love that, man.
So
I love it. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show today, for talking to us about all things Rohrman Automotive. It's been incredible to hear not only your grandfather's journey, but your journey as well, from Bethel up in Minnesota.
That's right.
To biochem major, to then coming and getting into the family business, and then for the last 7 years been running Rohrman Automotive Group, and just doing incredible things throughout the state of Indiana, throughout the state of Illinois as well, and a little bit into Wisconsin. I appreciate you coming. If people want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about all things, if they want to buy a car, how can they find you guys?
The easiest way is Rohrman.com. All our cars are there, and it's cool. Shopping is so easy anymore. Yeah. You can buy a car basically on our website. We'll deliver it to your door. So it doesn't matter. If you want to do that,
it's like Amazon, baby.
We can
Let's
do
go.
That. Hey, Amazon Autos is coming. It's going to be. They're launching on the West Coast, I think, this week, and then this market will be next. So it'll be Amazon Autos is coming. So it's not too far away.
Wow.
Yeah, and then also on LinkedIn. I do a lot on there of just. I'm talking about our culture, the tech that we're doing, the training that we do, all the things that I'm passionate about, and it's super easy to find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you stopping by, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.